offered by the Telangana State Government. So I welcome Mr. Sriram to start to take it over from me, please. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Sridevi. Are you audible? Are you able to hear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. On my personal behalf and on behalf of CII Southern Region Startup and Entrepreneurship Forum, I wanted to extend a warm welcome to all of you. I would also like to welcome all the participants who have tuned in through the Startup TV. Since March 2020, all of us have been affected by massive global disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, one way or another. And the central government, the state government, RBI, and financial institutions have introduced numerous schemes for the benefit of our startups and MSMEs in India. In this regard, we are organizing a series of sessions for the startups community and have already completed 2 sessions. I just wanted to share about our CII Startup and Entrepreneurship Forum. In our Startup and Entrepreneurship Forum, we are focusing on 5 key initiatives for the startup community. So one is Startup Corporate Connect. So we are doing various initiatives in this area. So basically, we have doing a pilot program, and we have contacted around 300 large corporates. Out of this, we'll be selecting around 10 to 15 corporates as a pilot project. Once it's selected, so we'll be reaching out to incubators, accelerators to contact, identify startups, and then we'll be connecting. The ultimate objective is to establish a win-win connect between the corporate community and startups. There are a lot of benefits, especially for startups as well as corporate community. Just only 2-3 points I want to touch upon for what are the benefits for startup communities. Startups can have a market access and connect with corporates. That's a big advantage in case you want a across India access, customer access, or global access. So you'll get benefited. Second one, in case you want to do any business model validation by corporates, or in case you are doing a deep tech technology, so you require a domain and functional exposure, so you can access through corporates. And in case any seed funding opportunity is available, and sector-specific domain mentoring for startups also. These are the various benefits are available. Just I want to touch upon this particular one. And the second one is creating a startup ecosystem. This is something similar to whatever we are doing for Master Health Checkup. So in Master Health Checkup, so we'll be taking a Master Health Checkup with a general hospital, and general physician will be showing in case of any problem. So he will refer to the specialist doctor. Something similar to this, we are creating a framework, and we are creating a diagnostic tool in case whoever is reaching out to us in CII, or this framework and diagnostic tool will be rolled out to everyone also later, to all the industry bodies as well as incubators and accelerators. We will identify what exactly the problem with startup. Maybe they require a go-to-market strategy. Then we'll accordingly be connecting with a particular mentor. Or maybe they require a market access. Then we'll be connecting with rolling out. So this will definitely benefit both corporates as well as startups. Third one is policy and advocacy. So we are doing a various points we are gathering from startups. What are the challenges, problems based on the various licenses, taxes you have faced? And we are taking up with central government as well as various state governments. The fourth one is startup business health checkup, and the creating a startup ecosystem. So we are addressing incubators, accelerators, universities, and the school as well in introducing entrepreneurship courses in schools, colleges, and others also. And finally, startup survival kit. This is basically to create an awareness program to the startups, various schemes available, incentive schemes available, policies available with the state governments and central governments. That is what we are doing today. And these are all the various major initiatives we are doing. So in CII Startup Forum, and I want to touch upon what is this survival kit. So one is CII Startups Entrepreneurship Forum has been conducting an awareness program, as I have touched upon. The objective of this initiative was to provide a knowledge to the startups on various central and state government schemes and policies. that are announced on a regular basis towards supporting the startup community during these uncertain times. This is what we are looking at today. We have already organized 2 webinars. First one on 2nd July 2021. The second webinar on 24th November 2021 for the startup community and the entrepreneurs. It was well received by the community, entire community. Today's Power Pact session is going to share information on incentive schemes offered by the Government of Telangana with startups and entrepreneurs, such as how to get reimbursement from SGST for startups. Second, how to get reimbursement on international marketing costs through trade shows, and various schemes, and our speakers will be covering many more incentive schemes available with the Government of Telangana. Thank you all for joining this webinar. Thank you. And now moving to introducing a speaker, I would like to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Magantali Srinivas Rao, MSR. He is the CEO of T-Hub Telangana, an accomplished serial entrepreneur. MSR has built and scaled businesses across geographies over his 33-year stint in the IT industry. At T-Hub, MSR is committed to positioning the organization to become a stronger innovation ecosystem enabler with high-quality outcomes. To achieve these aims, he will be focused on fundraising initiatives, higher valuations, robust employment generation, and building scale through active community engagement, especially for this for startup community, as well as he's working with various corporates and industry bodies as well. Before T-Hub, MSR served as a CEO of GAIN, Global Alliance for Mass Entrepreneurship, a social impact entity, where he was responsible for the implementation of organization's programs and expansion plans in its mission to catalyze 10 million mass entrepreneurs by 2030. It's a fantastic initiative. Earlier, he co-founded Agujas in 2008 with the seed funding from IDG Ventures. He drove the Agujas exit to NSEIT, a 100% wholly owned subsidiary of National Stock Exchange. MSR was part of the promoter team at Network Solutions, NetSol, which he helped scale from the early stage entity to being among the India's top 3 network integration entities before its acquisition by IBM in 2005. At the start of his career, MSR also worked in Sonata, Computer Vision Labs, and Microland. MSR is a native of Telangana, currently lives in Hyderabad. He holds an MBA from the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, and a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from OU College of Engineering. He is a bibliophile, a cricket fanatic, and enjoys quizzing. And he and his wife, a special educator, are the proud parents of 2 daughters. Over to you, MSR. It's a big achievements, big accomplishments, MSR. Thank you very much for accepting and joining today.
Thank you. Thank you, Sriram, and good afternoon to all the participants. First of all, I want to thank the CII team and specifically Mr. Sriram for giving me this opportunity to showcase the incentives which Telangana offers. So let me just start with giving you a little bit of background. Telangana, as you know, is the youngest state in the union. Telangana was formed in 2014, and Telangana has made very significant progress in the last 7 years from an entrepreneurship innovation perspective. And just to give you some numbers, we have more than 6,000 registered startups in Telangana under the, there's a department called DPIIT, Department for Promotion of Internal Trade and Information. So we are now among the states which are having the fastest growing number of startups. We also have a robust funding ecosystem. In terms of the capital which has come into Telangana in the last year, for example, in 2021, close to $900 million of venture capital came into supporting startups in Telangana across a range of sectors and segments, right? So we have a very progressive and forward-looking innovation policy in Telangana, which I'll share with you as we go along. And of course, we'll take questions at the end. So just to give you some perspective of how we are supporting entrepreneurs. And I was so happy to hear about the various initiatives which CII is undertaking to promote startups and entrepreneurs and the corporate connect. And obviously, we look forward to partnering closely with CII to furthering the cause of startups and entrepreneurs and their corporate connections. And I've been waiting for Mr. Sriram to tell me when the pilot will get over and we can start engaging in Telangana, right? So having said that, just to give a sense of the Telangana ecosystem, right? So the government, as I said, 2014 is when the state was formed. So there are different entities which have been set up by the government to promote and support entrepreneurs and innovation. And I'll just spend a quick 1 minute talking about each of these. So I'm part of T-Hub. So T-Hub is among India's top incubators. We were set up in 2015, and we have supported over 1,100 startups through various aspects, from idea stage, MVP stage, to scaling and acceleration stage and exit stage. So that's T-Hub. We have TSIC, Telangana State Innovation Cell. The focus of TSIC is more on grassroots innovation which has a significant social impact. We have VHub. VHub is focused on, it is the only state government supported incubator for supporting women entrepreneurship. Then, given the increasing number of startups which are focused on building solutions involving hardware, so essentially T-Works is an entity which helps in prototyping, testing, and helping take from idea stage to prototype and concept and production stage. So that's T-Hub. In terms of RICH, RICH is the Research and Innovation Circle of Hyderabad. Hyderabad is blessed to have more than 41 institutions of national importance in Hyderabad. So we have 12 defense labs. We have institutions like ICRISAT, which is research and in the semi-arid tropics. We have the National Institute of Nutrition, the Center for Molecular Biology, the National Geophysical Research Center, Survey of India. So several institutions of national importance. So what RICH basically focuses on doing is, how do you bring innovation from the lab to the market, right? So that's the focus of RICH. And then TASK is about essentially bridging the gap between what is taught in academia and industry. How do you make students employable and give them the current generation skills which are required by industry? So they have a presence in about 700 colleges in Telangana. And then we have another wing of the government called Emerging Technologies, which is how do you ensure that new generation technologies, like for example, blockchain, robotics, etc., right, and clean energy technologies are actually find useful use cases for deployment in government and actual implementation and making a change. So deployment of technologies like blockchain, GIS, and so on, right? And the last one is a specific focus on gaming and animation. We are also building out what I think will be India's largest gaming and animation tower, which can support up to 2,000 startups in that building. So this is just to give you a quick overview of the Telangana ecosystem. And now I will start talking to you specifically about the specific incentives for startups. We do believe that the policies we have outlined in Telangana are among the most progressive in the country. And hopefully at the end of this, you will get some visibility. And many of you who are contemplating starting businesses or already have set up businesses, I'd encourage you to come to Hyderabad and Telangana. I think it's fair to say from a Mercer index. So Mercer is a global entity which does a annual profiling of the states in India and cities. Hyderabad for the last 5 years has been ranked consistently as the best major city to live in India, right? So that's another incentive apart. We have good weather. We don't have the traffic problems of some of our other cities, right? And we have a large talent pool. We have some very high quality educational institutions and so on. So I will now come and start talking about I talked about the non-tangible incentives about why you should come to Telangana and Hyderabad. I will now cover specifically incentives related to uh, what we are doing to support startups, right? So first of all, there are certain basic preconditions required for incentives to be availed of. So the first is that we have a process of having to be recognized by the government of Telangana. So, and I will explain the process of how you can get recognized. So there are two. There's an either/or condition here, that the startup is incorporated in Telangana. So which means it will have to have a incorporation certificate in Telangana, which, as you know, when you apply to set up a company, you will go through the MCI 21 process. So there's an incorporation certificate which shows that you are based out of Telangana. And then the second one is the fact that obviously startups are also a very large employment generator, right? And so the intent of the support from the government is to ensure we get more startups and we also create more employment in Telangana. So basically 50% of the workforce has to be based in Telangana, meaning they can be from other parts of India, but they are currently resident in Telangana, right? So these are the preconditions. Now we have broadly 5 different areas which I'll walk through where we provide incentives. So we have incentives for the reimbursement of state GST. We have incentives for reimbursement of recruitment expenses which you'll incur when you onboard people onto your team. We have specific incentives for patents. So we want to encourage innovation. So essentially, when you file either for a domestic patent or for an international patent, we have specific incentives to reimburse the costs which you'll incur in applying for those patents. We have specific performance grants. So if you grow annually at a certain percentage, which I'll cover, you get specific performance grants from the state government. And last but not least is about, if you start, for example, many of the startups will have global ambitions. They're not looking just at India as a market, but also looking at trying to go out and take part in international trade fairs and shows to be able to establish a market outside of India, whether it be in the US, UK, Middle East, or anywhere else. So we have specific incentives for reimbursing the costs of participation in such trade fairs, right? So let's quickly now look at what we do in each of these, and I'll walk you through a lot of detail, and I'll of course be happy to share this presentation, which can be circulated by whoever is interested subsequently. So the first one is on reimbursement of state GST. So essentially, there's only one criterion for this. That is since it's a startup, the startup should have an annual turnover of less than 10 crores, right? That's the only criterion for reimbursement of state GST. And I will indicate to you the percentages and all that in the slide. So fairly simple process. You have to put in an application. There is a startup council. The details of the startup council. It's a single mail, email address, which I will share with you at the end of this. You just have to apply and then show proof of evidence of having paid taxes, and that will get reimbursed. Right? So that's the first one. Second one is on, as I said, startups which are looking to go international and are taking part in trade shows and fairs, etc. So we support up to 30% of the cost for parties. For example, many of our startups took part in an event in Dubai, the Dubai Expo, which happened in November 2 or 3 months ago, and 30% of the cost limited to up to 5 lakhs per company during the first 3 years. So which means if you are a startup which has been incorporated before 2018, you would be eligible to avail this reimbursement. And the expenses reimbursed are, for example, like airfare, then your hotel stay, the local transport expenses. If you have taken a booth or a stall up to 9 square meters, right? And there is a list of events which we publicize every year. Typically, all the large global events, we actively encourage our startups to go. The only thing we ask for is when you decide you want to take part, you need to let us know that you're taking part and provide us the pre-intimation that you're taking part, and we will pre-approve. And then once the event is over, you can send us a detailed itemized list of expenses, and we'll then do the reimbursement subject to a cap of 5 lakhs per company, right? So so I've covered 2 out of the 5. The first one being the reimbursement of the state GST, and the second one being the reimbursement of the international marketing costs. I will now then get into covering the reimbursement towards patent, the performance grants, and also the recruitment. So let's look at recruitment. So we give for every new hire you make, we basically give you 10,000 rupees, which will part. So, for example, suppose you hire 5 people, you will get a fee of 10,000 into 5. And then again, the basic consideration again is that the employee should have been on the rolls for a period of 8 months. So, for example, if the employee joins, for example, this year, suppose the employee joins in January, the reimbursement can be claimed once the employee finishes up to end of September, in terms of the fee. And again, a very simple process in terms of there's a application form, etc., which we ask you to fill, and then provide us evidence that the person has been on the rolls, right? The next one is an interesting one. This is about performance grant. We want our startups to grow, and we want our startups to grow rapidly, because startups, as we said, are a great engine of economic activity, employment generation, etc. So essentially, if you grow 15% year on year, so for example, if your first year turnover is, let us say, 25 lakhs, and then the next year you go to 32 and a half, go to 28.75 lakhs, and so on, you will be able to get a grant of up to 5% on the turnover. So which means, for example, the example I gave now, so 25 lakhs is your turnover, and then you have grown to 28.75 lakhs. This is done obviously on a April to March basis. So, for example, in the next cycle of grant reimbursement, let's say in the financial year 21-22, you've done 25 lakhs, and in the financial year 22-23, you do 28.75 lakhs. In the following year, you can apply for this, saying that you have grown at 15% plus, and up to 5% of that you will get subject to a cap of 10 lakhs, which means in this case, the example I gave, you will get 1.4 lakhs as a performance grant, right? In the example I gave you of 25 lakhs, right? The third one is about patents. As I said, our focus is on making sure that we want innovation, we want new products, new platforms to be built. So, and obviously patents are, a huge measure of protection of intellectual property which you generate, right? And so essentially, we actively encourage our startups to build product solutions and file for patents, and we reimburse part of the expenditure which they incur. So essentially, for if you're filing for an Indian patent with the Indian Patent Office, we will reimburse up to 2 lakhs, and if it's a global patent outside of India with WIPO, for example, we'll reimburse up to 10 lakhs, right? And again, obviously, we need the relevant paperwork, which is a copy of the approved patent, then obviously a certificate from your auditor, along with showing all the itemized list of invoices and receipts, and then we will obviously send it to the startup cell, right? So broadly, these are the 5 incentives. So we have basically for patents, for state GST reimbursement, for recruitment, for performance grants, and for participating in international shows. The next few slides will give you a little more detail in terms of how how it is done. So as I said, for the GST, up to 100%, the turnover up to a cap of 1 crore, and then the evaluation is we require all the copies of the tax returns which you have filed, and then there is a simple process where the startup council will validate, and we'll pay it out. I have a chart here subsequently showing you against each of these how much money has been reimbursed. So in the last year we had about 53 startups which availed of the funding through these 5 different ways, and close to 1.83 crores was reimbursed. We'll see more detail on that as we go forward. So these are some of the documents which are required. This obviously any startup would get registered for GST once they cross a minimum threshold of turnover and would be filing GST returns. So all of this is very straightforward to be able to administer and for you to get the reimbursement of the GST returns. Right. From international marketing trade shows, I covered this, which is basically 30% of the cost, subject to a cap of 5 lakhs. And this will be supported. So, for example, for the startups which took part in the Dubai event, they were all endorsed by us, by T-Hub. There were actually two other incubators which took part. One was T-Hub, the other was V-Hub, and the other was TSIC. So all of them got their funding, the expenditure reimbursed through this part. Then we have, I mentioned this, what is the documentary requirement, which is the letter from the organizers, kind of a letter confirming your participation, then the receipt of, this is a reimbursement. So you pay first and then get reimbursed, later. And then, of course, a picture of the stalls to show that you've actually taken part in the event. Yeah. This is the recruitment reimbursement. So essentially, up to 10,000 rupees, and the employee, as I said, should have been in the services of the company for a period of. It should be a direct employee, not a contract employee, who should be on the rolls of the company for a period of for 8 months. Yeah. And then the same, the payroll documentation, the list of employees, the address proof, the bank statement saying that you've actually paid the employees. And then, of course, if we want to make sure that the startup complies with all the relevant statutory obligations of ESI and PF payments, so that's also a requirement for the money to be disbursed. This is the performance incentive, which is basically about ensuring we want our startups to grow and grow rapidly, and we want to reward them for their growth. So essentially, if you have grown, year on year for 15%, up to a cap of 5%, and a limit of 10 lakhs on an annualized basis over a 3-year period. So you can get it for 3 separate years, right? So, for example, we would want, obviously, ideally, we would want all our startups to grow not 15, we would want them to grow at 100% or even more year on year. But we also want to make sure that we want to encourage everybody who's growing 15% even in these very challenging times has to be encouraged. And this is a true recognition of almost the state record giving you a equivalent of a performance bonus, right? Purely based on top line growth. Again, audited statements, and then breakup of customers, of sales report, which I'm sure any accounting package which you are using or which your accountant or auditor is using can be used as provided as evidence. Right. Patent I covered. Again, we want to encourage innovation. So reimbursement for Indian patents up to 2 lakhs and global patents up to 10 lakhs. Right. Now, again, copies, I mentioned what is required, documentation wise, copy of the patent, then copy from the patent office that the patent has been granted. You have to maintain a separate record of all the expenses you've incurred towards the patent filing, and then obviously a copy of the patent as well, right? So how did we promote this last year? Very quickly, we had we contacted over 3,000 companies. We did 7 information sessions such as this to let people know, we had a call center set up so that startups could reach out to us and get clarifications if any. Very transparent process. All applications are filed electronically on the website, which you can see here. And then we got about 190 applications. And then there's a committee, a small committee of about 5 people, and everything is put out in the public domain, so you know which of those companies have actually qualified. So out of the 190 applications we got, 53, which is almost 27-28%, actually got the reimbursement for across these 5 different categories. Right? So for the rural thing, there is basically, this is an amendment which we introduced recently. This is for essentially for rural startups. We want to promote social entrepreneurship. So this is basically for another variant of the 5 which has been introduced. So this has just come into effect. So in terms of I mentioned to you that 52 startups got money, close to 1.8 crores, and we ran this in 3 cycles last year. So we had basically in cycle 1, 11 startups, 35 lakhs, cycle 2, 17 startups, almost 56 lakhs, and the last cycle almost 89 lakhs across these 5 different categories, right? And as you can see, one of the most heartening things here is to see that we had almost 43 startups which got the performance grant, right? Which means they grew at 15% year on year, right? Despite the very challenging times of COVID. Also, in terms of employment generation, you can see that we had some numbers. Intellectual property, as you can see, 14 of them got patents done, right? And we supported them through both the 2 lakh for domestic as well as the 10 lakh for international. And the international market last year, obviously because of COVID, most of these events people could not travel. Many of them became virtual. So obviously our startups could not avail it to the extent, but the scheme remains. And as hopefully once COVID is behind us and our startups start to go out and start taking part in many of these events, we will be able to get them the benefit of this reimbursement for marketing expenses incurred by way of participation in trade shows. Right. So some of the startups who benefited, a wide variety of startups across different sectors. So for example, Loop Reality is a HR tech startup which uses AI to ease the process of hiring. Monitra is a very interesting health tech startup which basically does patient monitoring. So for example, if somebody has had a stroke and after a certain period of hospitalization recuperates at home, and the doctors have to still monitor vital parameters. So they built a solution, basically an IoT solution, which is as a patch on the patient, and then that transmits data to the cloud, which allows patients to be monitored interactively in real time by doctors. Adonmo is a very interesting ad tech startup, basically outdoor ad tech startup, and just about a week ago, they got an investment from Zomato. Zomato invested 112 crores in Adonmo for a 20% stake. Millet Bowl is this year, some of you may be aware, has been declared as a International Year of Millets in the recent budget, and they create healthy snack options they started with actually doing healthy snacks for children in schools, but obviously schools, because of COVID, most schools had to move to offline to online mode. So they're now pivoted and they're doing a set of healthy snacking options for not just children but also for adults. So very good list of startups, all of whom have availed of the benefits of these schemes and are now looking to scale. So how do you avail of all this? So one is, please go to the website. I will show you the website again. All of these details are here. So startup.telangana.gov.in. That's the website. And in terms of if you have specific questions on any of these, you can reach out to Dr. Shanta Totum.
MSR, we are not able to hear suddenly. MSR, we are not able to hear. MSR, are you able to hear? MSR?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, MSR. Could you repeat last 2 minutes, whatever you have talked about, MSR? That will be great.
Sure. So I said in terms of if you want more details of the of the schemes, there is the startup.telangana.gov.in website, and the contact details of the nodal authority who's administering the scheme is Dr. Shanta Thotham, and her contact, she's the Chief Innovation Officer of TSIC, and her contact details are given here.
Anything else you want to cover, MSR?
No. So first of all, thank you to all the participants for being here. I do hope you got good insight into what we can offer. So as I said, there is a range of fiscal incentives. We also have a lot of non-tangible, non-fiscal incentives in Telangana. So high quality of life, excellent transportation system. We don't have flooding like it happens in other parts of India. We have clean air. We have a lot of very good, high quality educational institutions, right? And we are also very cosmopolitan, right? So most of us in Telangana can speak 3 languages: English, Hindi, Telugu, and in many of the border districts we can also speak, Kannada, Tamil as well. So language is not a barrier in Telangana.
Thank you, MSR, for a very comprehensive presentation on Telangana ecosystem and incentive schemes for startups offered by the Government of Telangana. We will now start the QA session. I request please post your questions in the QA box, so it will be easy for us to track in a single area instead of chat box. The first question is from Hema Rajesh. Is this entire session restricted to startups incorporated in Telangana only?
Yes, the prerequisite for being able to avail of any of the five schemes, apart from the social innovation thing, is the entities have to be registered in Telangana.
So again, next question from Hema Rajesh. Do we have a separate session for Tamil Nadu registered startups? Yes, from CII, we are planning to organize separately. And next one is from Yogesh Deshmukh. I am a Vaishali and women entrepreneur and looking for growth stage funding.
Please reach out to us. While that is not the purview of this conversation, we do have at T-Hub, we do have 2 funds. We have a T fund, a Telangana fund, where we support entrepreneurs. Again, the only prerequisite for that is that the enterprise must be incorporated in the state of Telangana. Other than that, there's no other. Obviously, we'll examine the merits of the case and what stage the fund business is, etc. A typical evaluation of the merits of the business. So that is one fund. We also have at at T-Hub, we also administer the Startup India scheme. Startup India, we are one of the beneficiaries of the Startup India Seed Fund. And the Startup India Seed Fund, we can support enterprises spread across all of India, no, not restricted to having to be domiciled in Telangana. So you can reach out to us, for if you are looking for funding under the Startup India Fund. If you are looking for the Telangana Fund, of course, a prerequisite is that you need to be domiciled in Telangana. Domicile meaning the entity should be registered in Telangana, headquartered in Telangana.
Okay. Again, next question is from Pawan. Any incentives for online international marketing expenses such as YouTube or Facebook?
We have brought this under to the committee's purview for request, because given the current pandemic type of thing, so the matter is under active consideration. But as of now, right now, whatever we have done so far is limited to physical events.
Okay. Kasi is talking about especially.
We hope to be able to come back fairly soon whether any changes would occur.
So the thing Pawan is talking about, especially considering the pandemic travel restrictions.
Yes.
So he is raising this point he has mentioned. Moving to Sharvan Kumar. If a startup just started and currently in ideation stage and the product development phase, how can they get assistance for further progress?
So please come to Telangana and we'll support you. You got access to all these 5 things. So, as you start generating revenue, we'll ensure the state GST reimbursement would happen. When you hire people, we'll ensure you get reimbursement of up to 10,000 rupees per hire. If you grow at 15%, we'll ensure that you get, a grant up to 10 lakhs for the first 3 years. If you are all the 5 schemes you will be eligible for if you are willing to relocate to Telangana.
Next question is from Ramesh. Can we get this session's recording? I would like to share it with our finance team too. So Sridevi, any input? Have we recorded this?
Yes, we have recorded it. I have also posted in the chat box. I have posted my email ID. Those who want, they can email me. I can send the recording of the session, please.
Okay, thanks, Sridevi. Again, next question is from Sumant. Do you supporting space startups?
Yes. In fact, one startup I will talk about, we have a startup called Skyroot. Skyroot is actually one of the first private state startups which has entered into an active collaboration with ISRO, and they are now working on rocket launch, and they've just raised a 5 million round of funding. So we are very proud to be associated with Skyroot, and we also have a very progressive policy, for defense and aerospace. We are forming a large cluster in Telangana. As I said, we have 12 defense labs in Telangana alone, right? So we are actively working closely with the defense labs, with ISRO, etc. And space tech is a huge focus area for us.
Okay. Next question is from Sridhar Reddy. Hi, sir. Is DPIIT recognition mandatory to apply for T Fund or Startup India Fund? Please suggest.
For Startup India Fund, again, basically 3 years is the cutoff. So, which means, for example, the next round of Startup India Fund, which we will be calling for applications towards the later part of this month, you need to be an entity which has been incorporated after January 1, 2019.
So next question is from Praveen. If the entity is registered in Andhra Pradesh, ROC in Vijayawada, and are operating from Hyderabad, is there any procedure to avail any of these benefits?
Request you to please change your registered office to Telangana.
So next question is from Mallikarjun. Are the incentives available to only startups that are incorporated in the past 3 years? Or does it cover startups incorporated 5, 7, 10 years ago as well?
No, so it's basically for the last 3 years is what we are saying. We will try. We are talking to, and again, we are also mindful of the challenges which have happened because of COVID. So we are trying to work with the committee to see if there is some amendment can be made as a one-time exception. But at this point of time, it is the last 3 years.
So next is from Soy Srinivas. Thank you, MSR sir. And Srinivas sir, I am in the process of incorporation. I would like to know if there is any contact list to get help for getting any information about startup, connections, and knowledge sharing. Thank you.
So please do visit the T-Hub website, t-hub.co. That will give you an idea of all the programs we run. And there's also a mail ID there. You can write to them and we'll ensure somebody responds. And in whatever way we can support you, we'll do our best.
Is from Dr. Orthi. My startup is registered from Maharashtra. What is the eligibility? I am working in healthcare sector and doctor by profession, also pre-incubated in NSRCEL.
So, Doctor, happy to meet you virtually. We are happy to support you. As I said, to be able to avail these incentives, you need to please consider setting up getting registered in the state of Telangana. But otherwise, in terms of the other, for example, the Startup India Seed Fund, if you got a plan, you built a business plan, etc. As I said, we'll be putting out applications, call for applications, and we will evaluate based on merit. And if the idea which you are pursuing, has sufficient traction and has sufficient future potential, we'll be happy to potentially consider funding as well.
So next question is from Syed. Do you also support IT-enabled services sector or only product-oriented solutions?
So there's no bar on. There's a preference, as you can see, because we want to support more innovation, which is where there's a focus on patents. But having said that, we are open to, it could be, for example, if you're running a IT software development services company and you are able to, for example, grow at 15%, you will be eligible for, or you're recruiting people, you'll be eligible for applying for this package of incentives. Yeah.
So again, from company name MVG Innovation, we hired full-time employees on work from home basis recently, but they are from different states. Our company will turn 2 years by March. Can we claim for reimbursement of recruitment assistance for year 2?
Okay. Again, this is again a twist which has occurred because of COVID. We understand that many of our employees may be working from their hometowns or districts. So right now the criterion is that the employee must be domiciled here in Telangana, and again being actively considered. So if you are a startup registered in Telangana, but you have employees spread, for example, in Maharashtra or in Karnataka or whatever, how do we treat this remote working thing? Right now, the official position is that they have to be domiciled in Telangana. But if things change, we'll definitely let you know.
Next question is from Ayla. Hi all, any incentives for agri-tech startups in the form of IoT devices, etc., as some of them had been specifical, I'm not clear what she has mentioned, outlined for sanctioning in recent financial budget 22-23.
Yeah, so there have been a number of far-reaching announcements made day before yesterday. For example, drone startups in agri, then creating a fund for agri, etc. We are obviously going to go through the fine print because these are just announced in the budget. They have to be passed. The bill has to be passed by Parliament, and then once we get more details, we will obviously, whatever the part we have to play, both from the government of Telangana, etc. We'll make sure that those those incentives are passed on.
So next question is from Ravi Kumar. Is it proprietorship firm is also eligible to avail this benefit, or we have to be a private limited?
You have to be a limited company.
So that's all. Any other questions from anyone? So MSR, can we go to, that's all. So can we go to closing remarks or anything else you want to add, MSR?
No, so thank you, Team CII, and specifically thank you, Sriram, for giving me this opportunity. I do hope the both potential entrepreneurs as well as existing entrepreneurs will consider, building their businesses out of Telangana, and I look forward to this. This is the second event which I've had the privilege of participating under your chairmanship. Look forward to a much more active engagement between CII and the state of Telangana as well as T-Hub. And please consider us to be. We would really like to work with such an important ecosystem player like CII to further the cause of startups and entrepreneurs in Telangana.
Thanks, MSR. Definitely, we will work from CII, Southern Region, whatever you have talked about, corporate connect and other things. So we will discuss offline. Definitely, we'll support you whatever required from CII, Southern Region. Again, thanks, MSR, for the very comprehensive presentation covering the Telangana ecosystem and government schemes and incentives for startups. It has been a very useful and informative sessions. So you have covered the whole range of incentives. And thanks for answering various questions for the participants. I would like to urge all the startups to make use of these wonderful schemes by the Government of Telangana. We have planned similar sessions in the future, which will highlight other southern states, state government schemes also. Stay tuned to more information from CII. Thank you, participants, for attending this session. Thanks to Vishwajit Raut from Startup TV for partnering with today's session. Thank you, Sridevi from CII, and Suvida and Nidhi from T-Hub for this well-organized webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you all.
Thank you.